do something for me right now. Take your finger and run it along the front of your lower jaw, just under your bottom lip. Feel that? There's a small ridge of bone there. It sticks forward, just slightly. A little shelf right at the front of your face. You've seen it in the mirror every single morning of your life. It's in every photo of you ever taken. And I'd bet you have never, not once, stopped and asked what it's doing there. So here's the thing. That bump is called the mental protuberance. And you are the only creature on this planet that has one. Not chimpanzees, not gorillas, not orangutans, not a single one of the 200 plus other primate species alive today. And not Neanderthals either, our closest extinct relatives who walked this earth for hundreds of thousands of years with brains as big as ours. They didn't have one. Just you, just us. And after more than 100 years of arguing about it, scientists still cannot agree on why. Let's be precise about what a chin actually is, because this is where it gets interesting. A chin is not just the bottom of your face. Every animal with a jaw has a bottom of its face. A chin is something much more specific. It's a bony projection at the front of the lower jaw, the mandible that juts forward out past the roots of your front teeth. Picture a chimpanzee's profile. Look at the lower jaw. It slopes backward, away from the teeth, retreating down toward the throat. That backward slope is the standard design. It's what you find across the entire primate family tree. Now picture your own profile. Your jaw does the opposite. Below your teeth, the bone pushes out and forward, then the jaw recedes underneath it. That forward push is the chin, and it is bizarre. Because here's the thing about anatomy, genuinely unique features are rare. Almost everything in your body has a version somewhere else in the animal kingdom. Eyes, hearts, lungs, thumbs, teeth, hair, all of it shows up again and again across species in different shapes, solving similar problems. Evolution reuses. It copies. It adapts what's already there. The chin doesn't do that. The chin appears once in one species, us. And it's not that our ancestors had one and other apes lost it. We can check. We have their skulls. Homo erectus, walking upright and using fire over 1 million years ago, no chin. Homo heidelbergensis, no chin. The Denisovans, known mostly from fragments in a Siberian cave, no chin. And Neanderthals, who buried their dead, made tools, and interbred with our ancestors so successfully that many people watching this carry their DNA no chin. Their jaws slope backward, just like every other primate. Only anatomically modern Homo sapiens has this thing, and it shows up early. The chin isn't something that develops when you hit puberty or grow into your face. It's already forming in the human fetus, visible in the developing jaw months before birth, and it becomes more pronounced as a child grows. So this is a real, deep, built-in feature of our species, not an accident of one person's face, a defining trait of being human, which raises the obvious question, what is it for? Scientists have been chewing on this question, since at least the early 1900s, and every generation has produced a confident answer that the next generation took apart. Theory 1, chewing. This was the intuitive favorite for a long time. Chewing generates enormous stress at the front of the jaw, where the two halves of the mandible meet. So maybe the chin is a buttress, a reinforcement, like the thickened corner of a building, added to stop the jaw from cracking under the strain of a tough diet. It sounds great. The problem is the engineering doesn't cooperate. When researchers actually modeled where stress concentrates in the jaw during chewing, the chin isn't well positioned to counter it. If you wanted to reinforce a jaw against chewing forces, you would not put the extra bone where our chin is. And there's a second problem. Our ancestors and Neanderthals ate tougher food than we do, with more powerful jaws, and they had no chins at all. The species with the weakest chewing apparatus is the one with the reinforcement. That's backward. Theory 2, speech. A romantic one. We're the talking ape. The tongue is a powerful muscle anchored at the inside of the front of the jaw, and speech requires rapid, precise, forceful tongue movements. So maybe the chin evolved to brace the jaw against the strain of language. It's a beautiful story, but it's very hard to demonstrate. The forces produced by talking are small compared to chewing, and the chin appears in fetuses long before any speaking happens. Researchers who've reviewed this explanation have generally found it unsatisfying, suggestive, but not supported. Theory 3, fighting. Maybe it's armor. Maybe a reinforced jaw survives a punch better, and the men who could take a hit passed on more genes. The problem here is straightforward. The chin is a protrusion. Sticking bone out from the front of your face is not generally how you protect a jaw. If anything, a projecting structure concentrates force rather than dispersing it. Theory 4, attraction. This idea goes back at least to 1916, that the chin is ornamental, a signal of health or hormones selected because potential mates preferred it. A strong jawline line as a billboard for good genes. Here, the issue is evidence. It's a plausible sounding story, and it's culturally appealing because we do find jawlines attractive today. But scientific support for the chin having evolved specifically as a mating signal is thin. And that's before you account for the fact that women have chins too. So there you have it. 4 solid, sensible, well-argued theories. Chewing, speech, fighting, attraction. And after a century of testing, every one of them has a hole in it, which is where a study published in early 2026 comes in, and it does something the others didn't. It stops asking what the chin is for. The research came from Lauren Schroeder at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, and Noreen von Cremon-Taubadel at the University at Buffalo, published in early 2026. Their approach was clever, because instead of hunting for a purpose, they went after a more basic question. Did natural selection shape the chin directly at all? There are 3 ways a trait like this can appear. 1. Random drift. Traits can wander into existence with no selective pressure behind them, just by chance, especially in small populations. Nobody selected it, it just drifted in. 2. Direct selection. Natural selection acted specifically on the chin. It did something useful. Chin havers survived and reproduced better. The trait spread. This is what all 4 classic theories assume. 3. Byproduct. Selection acted powerfully on something else. The skull, the face, the jaw as a whole, and the chin fell out of those changes as a side effect. Nobody selected it. Nothing selected against it. It's a consequence. To test between these, the team measured a large set of skull and jaw traits and calculated how fast each one changed along different branches of the ape evolutionary tree. This is the key move. Random drift produces change at a predictable, sluggish rate. If a trait is changing faster than drift can explain, something is pushing it. That's the signature of selection. What they found was that there was strong directional selection on the branch leading from the last common ancestor of humans and chimps to modern humans. Major, powerful changes to the skull and jaw genuinely happened in our lineage. But when they looked at where that selection was, actually acting the chin itself wasn't the target. Their conclusion, in von Cremon-Taubadel's own framing, was that the chin evolved largely by accident, not through direct selection, but as an evolutionary byproduct resulting from direct selection on other parts of the skull. Let that land for a second. The most distinctive feature of the human face, the one thing no other animal on Earth has, may not have a purpose. It may not have been built. It may just be what was left over when everything around it changed. Biologists have a name for features like this. They're sometimes called spandrels, borrowed from architecture, where a spandrel is the curved triangular space that appears between 2 arches. Nobody designs a spandrel. Nobody wants a spandrel. It's the shape that necessarily exists once you've put 2 arches next to each other. You can decorate it afterward, and people have, beautifully, but it exists because of geometry, not intention. The suggestion is that your chin is a spandrel, a leftover shape produced by a much bigger renovation. So what was the renovation? Here's the part of the story that I find genuinely striking. Your face is smaller than your ancestors' faces, substantially smaller. Modern human faces are roughly 15% shorter than Neanderthal faces. And this shrinking wasn't ancient history. A major phase of it has been traced to roughly the last 80,000 years. In evolutionary terms, that is recent. That's the blink of an eye. Our whole facial architecture retreated. The heavy brow ridge flattened out, the jaw pulled back and got smaller, the teeth got smaller, the entire front of the skull tucked in underneath a rounder, higher brain case. Why? The leading explanations point at how we started living. Cooking softens food dramatically. Heat does part of the work your molars used to do. Tools cut and process food before it ever reaches your mouth. Softer, pre-processed food means less mechanical demand on your jaw, and a body that doesn't need to build expensive heavy bone stops building it. Add in the broader changes in skull shape that came with our particular kind of brain, and the whole face gets remodeled. Now think about what happens to a jaw during that process. The jaw is not a single simple bar of bone. It has an outer surface and an inner surface, an upper region holding the teeth and a lower region below them, and these parts don't all shrink at the same rate or in the same direction. The tooth row pulls backward. The tongue and the muscles under it are still anchored on the inside of the jaw and still need their space. The mouth still has to hold a tongue, and you still have to breathe and swallow, so the upper part of the jaw front retreats, and the lower part doesn't retreat as far. And when the top pulls back and the bottom stays put, you get a shelf, a ridge, a bump of bone at the front of the jaw that now relative to everything around it, sticks out. You get a chin. Not because anything needed a chin, because the face around it moved. There's something almost funny about this. The single most human feature of the human face, the thing we associate with strength, with character, with a strong jawline, the thing sculptors emphasize and we photograph from flattering angles might be the leftover edge of a demolition site. The last bit of an old wall still standing after the rest of the building came down around it. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is exactly the point where a video like this usually oversells. It would be very satisfying to end with, science has solved the chin, it's a byproduct, mystery closed. But that's not honest, and it's not what the researchers themselves claim, because there's evidence that pushes the other way, and it's good evidence. James Pampush, an evolutionary anthropologist at the University of Florida, analyzed CT scans of jaws from more than 100 primate species, and he found that the angles that define the chin change rapidly during recent human evolution, and specifically in our lineage, not elsewhere in the primate tree. Rapid change in one branch is exactly the fingerprint that usually says something was pushing on this. As Pampush put it, natural selection must have been involved in producing that unusual chin shape. So we have one line of evidence saying the chin looks like a side effect, and another saying it changed too fast and too specifically to be nobody's business. And there are still other proposals in circulation. A 2025 paper in Acta Zoologica went back through the whole catalogue of functional explanations. Defense, chewing, speech, mate choice, noted that none of them had proved satisfactory, and proposed yet another functional role. The argument is live. Papers are still being written. Nobody has closed this. There's also a subtlety worth naming. Byproduct and useful are not mutually exclusive. A structure can arise as a side effect and then get put to work, or get fine-tuned afterward. Evolution does this constantly. Feathers almost certainly did not first appear for flight. The spandrel gets decorated later. So the honest state of play right now in 2026 is this. The byproduct explanation is currently the strongest and best supported account we have. It is not the unanimous verdict of the field, and the chin remains, after more than a century, one of the most genuinely unresolved questions in human anatomy, which honestly, I think is the better story anyway. We walk around with a quiet assumption about our own bodies, that everything in here is here for something, that we're well designed, that if a piece exists, it has a job. Your chin is a small, permanent argument against that. Evolution is not an engineer with a blueprint. It's more like a contractor who is never allowed to demolish the building and start over, only to renovate floor by floor while people are still living inside. Walls come down, rooms shrink, doorways get moved, and when it's finished, there are odd corners, useless ledges, and bits of old structure jutting out into hallways, left there simply because nothing ever required them to be removed. Your face is one of those renovations. Roughly the last 80,000 years of it, the brow came down, the jaw pulled in, the teeth shrank, the skull rounded out, and at the very front, a small shelf of bone was left standing. The most recognizable feature of the human face may mean nothing at all. So the next time you catch your own reflection, go on, run your finger along it again. You are the only animal that has ever existed who can do that. And we still don't know why.